good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of Life with Shenita. I am Dr. Shenita Connolly, and I am so excited to have this conversation that's near and dear to my heart with an amazing couple tonight. And we're going to be talking about marriage. And, many times people spend a lot of time preparing for the wedding and very minimal time preparing for the marriage. And so we're going to have this conversation about the importance of planning for a successful marriage, not just planning for a beautiful wedding. And so I am so excited to bring to you all Mr. Michael and Dr. Nataline Woods to the platform. So before I bring them in, I'd like for you all to like and share the broadcast because this is going to be some nuggets dropped this evening, resources dropped this evening, and hopefully, if anyone is in need of any services, any counseling, any tips, they'll be able to get what they need this evening. So please like and share the broadcast. And without further delay, I am going to bring this amazing couple, Team Woods, into the studio. So if you guys would join me in welcoming them to the platform. Good evening.
Hello there.
How are you all?
We are good.
Hey,
How are you?
how you
Team
doing?
I am.
Woods. We like
I,
that.
Yeah, we like that.
yes. So, I'm really excited because I remember years ago when Michael and Winston were interviewed by Bridget,
Yes.
and today I have the
Yes.
privilege to interview the two of you. It's just like, wow, this is just
It's been a
amazing.
long
Who would have
time.
thought? Yes, it was a long
It's
time, and
a
who would have
long
thought?
time ago.
Yeah, that we'd be
Wow.
right here. So I'm truly
Yep.
excited.
Yep.
So thank you
Congratulations
all.
to you. This is
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I've been plugging along with this for 3 years, a little more than three
Oh,
years
wow.
now.
That's great. I knew you were
Yeah,
doing a lot of things. I knew you had the book.
yep.
I
So
didn't know
I
about the
started this.
podcast.
Yep, I started it April 16th on my dad's birthday, 2020, right during COVID because
Oh,
so
yeah.
much was happening, and I thought Is Your House in Order was just a great way to kind of start talking about that because we were losing so many people.
Yes. Oh,
And
my
so that's
gosh.
kind of how
Yes.
it got started. So it just kind of moved from talking about that important part of our life to all aspects of our lives. So tonight is just one of those conversations that we need to talk about.
We need to have them. We need to have more of
Yes.
them.
So, yeah, so I'm going to allow you all to introduce yourselves in the manner in which you would love to introduce yourself and let the audience know who you are. So it's on you
Team
all.
Woods.
Okay, we'll take it away. I am Natalie Woods. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee originally. I came to Atlanta by going to school. I attended Spelman College. I didn't finish. My mom found me a scholarship playing the violin at Mississippi Valley State University, came back to Atlanta University, got a job right outside of, right after grad school at Kennesaw State University and went into, I was an instructor, a college professor. I taught reading and education courses. But while I was advising students and dealing with the students, I realized I needed to deal with the whole person. So I got another degree in counseling. And so that's how that all played out. Uh, a friend of mine said, because it was probably a thing where I should get a doctorate in education. And he said, you listen to people very well. If I were you, and he was a psychologist, he said, I will go into counseling. And that's what I did. And
Wow.
it just took off from there.
I love it.
Yeah.
So Memphis, Tennessee, Spelman University took you back to what college again?
Mississippi Valley State
Mississippi.
University.
Wow.
Yeah. And
You
then
so you played the violin.
I played the violin. I played all the way
Nice.
through elementary school, through high school, got a scholarship. Didn't
Oh my
but
goodness.
wasn't even that serious. And my mom couldn't figure out why I continued playing because all of my friends, including my brother, stopped playing. And she said that's not even her personality, but we realized it was a way to pay for my tuition. And when I was at Spelman, my parents were paying out of pocket and they had run out of money and I didn't know it. So I had a friend that was depressed. A lot of us came together, but one friend in particular was homesick. So eventually I thought I was homesick. I was not homesick, but it was just the way God moved. So I
Wow.
did a scholarship. And then I came back though, and I always say that because I came to school here, that's what brought me to Atlanta.
Wow. I never knew the violin part. If you did share,
Yes.
I just didn't remember that part.
Yeah. Yeah. So the violin, taught at Morris Brown. Again, went to Atlanta University, came back with the Clark Atlanta University. So I always tell people I am a product of the Atlanta University system.
I love it.
And that'll segue into Mike's story.
Right. My name is Michael Woods. I'm from Atlanta.
Grady baby.
Winston West.
He says, go ahead and say Grady baby.
Yep. Go ahead and claim it.
Yeah.
Claim it,
She
Mike.
said it for me. She said
Grady
it for me.
baby.
And I am a Grady baby. I'm from Atlanta, like I said, born and raised, love Atlanta. I had the opportunity to finish high school. I played football in high school at Southwest Atlanta. Not Decatur, not DeKalb, Southwest Atlanta.
Southwest. Go ahead.
Yes. And went on to move to Clark, Atlanta, played football at Clark. Now, what's interesting is that once I left Clark, everybody used to tease me because that's when I got into the aviation industry. But I started out being, I was a flight attendant for Eastern Airlines.
That's a nugget.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. So I was a flight. So everybody used to tease me. They said, how does a former football player become a flight attendant? I said, it was a lot of fun. I had a great time.
I'm sure you did. Right. They
But
had to fly everywhere.
yeah, that was great. So after Eastern shut down, that was devastating for a lot of people when Eastern shut down in 90. I went on and got on at FedEx and got into leadership. So from there, I think I'm a natural leader. Didn't realize I saw it in college and in high school. Playing football, and it brought those things out in me, characters out. So from there, I got into leadership and became a manager at FedEx, moved to Dallas. I've been in the industry, so I worked for quite a few airlines, but a lot of people don't know too, but I was also down in New Orleans when Katrina hit. I was managing down there. So, and also I just like to mentor kids. I'm also right now, I'm on the board of directors for Aviation Dreamweavers, where we help young African-American kids, men and women, try to get scholarships to fly. They want to be pilots. And then I'm also coaching, volunteer coaching. And one of my former players who I coached called me up, and I've been with him for about 9 years now. So,
Wow. That's an interesting journey.
It is.
Yes, I love it. Football player, flight attendant,
Flight attendant, all of the above.
Grady baby,
Grady
over
baby.
to Texas, back to Georgia.
oh yeah.
And now doing community work because I see
Yes.
you were, formerly in the airline industry. So now you're retired,
Yes.
and so you're enjoying giving back to the community.
Yes, I do.
That's beautiful.
And if I can plug in,
Uh-huh.
it's a natural process because football saved Mike. That's what made him who he is today. He grew up, his father died when he was a young child, and he had a brother that was younger. So he was made the man of the family, and his mom did very well raising two boys, but she was like 23 years old and had some struggles. But because of the community service and because of people giving back and because of sports, learning how to be a team player, learning how to be a leader, that basically saved Michael from
awesome.
going to a street,
Yeah.
being in the streets.
And it's just a nugget for all my married men out here. When you have your wife knowing everything about you, you can tell my story better than me.
That's funny.
That's a
So,
benefit.
so
That is hilarious.
Just let the men out there know.
They know.
So
They already know.
she could tell the story better than me. But no, that's fine. It was a struggle because my mother was dealing with mental health issues, and I had to deal with that also. And so football did save me because I was able to release a lot of the things that I was going through out there on the field.
And I think I remember a little bit about you sharing before about the struggles with your mom mentally. And if I'm not, mistaken, it had something to do with the husband leaving or passing or what have you.
Yes. My when my father passed away, he was 29 and my mom was 24. So she was really into my dad, and that's what really triggered it.
And stressed her out.
Ooh, a lot.
I tell you, it can take you completely out.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, how did you guys meet?
Interesting.
Wow. Go ahead.
You have a story and I have a story, right? Well, it was we first met when I was that flight attendant. We were out at a local bar, and I saw her, and we talked. Now she was young, so when I came up to her, I don't think I was her type. So I didn't have the curly. I didn't have the curly hair.
I don't know why he says that.
And my complexion might have been a little bit too dark for her at that time. But
really.
So she says
that is not the truth, but go ahead. It makes for a great story.
She says,
let me tell the truth.
She says that I was quiet.
He was very quiet. He didn't really, he did not show me this fun, wonderful person that he was. He was extremely quiet and didn't really talk, just kind of smile. He smiles all the time. So he just smiling, but he wasn't saying anything.
Right.
And he really wasn't ready for a serious relationship. And we were in our 20s. We got married. Mike was in his late 30s and was still questionable as to whether or not he was really ready. But God brought us back together. But he didn't show me that he was this fun person. You keep saying we're going to have fun. He's fun. Right. But I didn't see that in the beginning. And it just wasn't time. I think we were supposed to meet and then go ahead and live life and then come back together.
And that's a beautiful story. How many people, have an opportunity to meet and become acquainted to a certain level and then go on and do life again and then come back together and be destined to be a couple. So it had to be destined.
Yeah. Well, you can tell her how you prayed and asked God for a wife.
Go ahead. You tell her. You know it.
Oh, Mike, I want to hear you share that piece because I heard it and I want the men to hear it.
Yes, go ahead, Big Mike. Tell it. Tell her what God did for you.
Well, I was living in Texas, and I finally figured out. I was single, and I was dating a lot. So I said, I'm doing good at the time, financially, my job, all that. So I said, hey, I think I'm ready, and I prayed for a wife, and I was in detail. I asked for what I wanted, and just make sure when you do pray, fellas, be very, very specific.
Yes.
Because I left something out, but it was just one thing I left out. But other than that, I got a great wife.
What did you leave out?
Guess.
No.
What is it,
Mike? What would you have asked God? That she doesn't talk at all?
Just slow it down sometimes.
She talks too much.
Yes.
So I want her to talk, but not so much.
Right.
As much.
As much.
She put that full court press on you.
Yes.
It's called personality.
So I love the fact that, how many years would you say that you guys have been married now?
it feels like it's been about 70 years. That's what it feels. But 24.
24. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why this is so important, this conversation about marriage. After the wedding, then comes the marriage. We know that people spend a lot of time and a lot of money, a lot of energy on the marriage itself, the wedding day, not the marriage, but the
Yeah,
wedding.
the wedding.
They spend a lot of time. Many times people don't even consider premarital counseling. They don't think about anything prior to sustain the union. So what happened? What made you all, or you, Nataline, write this book after the wedding? Then comes the marriage.
Well, I think you said it and Mike said it. My when I was 12, you hear me refer to my mom because she's a prayer warrior. She told me, I was a little girl, that I'm praying for you a husband. I want you to have the right husband. I said, I don't want no husband. I'm 12. What? And she said, oh, no. You have to pray. And you heard Michael mention that he prayed for a wife. So my mom and I would attend weddings, and I was an older bride. So I went to a lot of weddings. And after the wedding, 6 months later, people were getting a divorce. So my mom would make a joke about it. She said, when everybody wants to be the queen, the doors open, this beautiful person comes out, and then months later, they're not together anymore. So she said, I'm going to wait to give my gift months later. If they're still married, I'm going to give the wedding gift then. And I started really paying attention to that. And I realized, and after being married, I realized also that people get a divorce a lot of times for reasons that are not serious. It appears to be serious. It feels like it. But if you really get some help, if you get somebody to talk to you and work through the issues, some of it is just simple things that's communicating.
That's
the way
right.
we communicate differently. Men and women communicate differently. So if you have somebody that's not talking at all and you're talking, or like he said, we're talking too much and they're not really telling you how they feel, we could think that's a problem. He doesn't love me because of that.
Mhm.
So there are Mike and I I don't know if you want me to talk about this now, but when we first got married, I'm an extreme extrovert. I mean, off the chain, off the scale.
Mhm.
Mike is kind of in the middle. He can hang out, but he wants to come home, and he does well at home. I get stimulated being around people,
Mhm.
and I'm ready for the next high.
Mhm.
We go here, we go on this trip. I'm ready to go somewhere else that's bigger, longer. And so when we first got married, that caused some problems. Michael, and then you got to realize too, Michael was grieving because we didn't bring it up. His mom died a few months before we got married. She just dropped dead. She was 52 years old.
Young.
She died in the end of June. We got married in November. He was devastated. He came home from FedEx and she was on the floor, gone. And probably if we had not been dating, if we had not been engaged, we probably would not have got married. It was one of those situations where people break up or they clean. So he was very depressed. So go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add that first year, first couple of months was tough for me. And this is when I knew, and I always tease my wife, but this is when I knew I had the right woman. How many men can go to the altar, you lose your mother, and you lose your job,
Wow.
and your wife still says, I do.
Wow.
So
That's a
I
great
said,
point.
Yeah.
right. So she was, she was right there, because when he was dating, I was doing very well, and this was unexpected. But then this is hey, the marriage is being tested right away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You went through a lot of tests.
We went through a lot of tests right away. I mean, it was like, wow. So, and now we just laugh about it, have fun, and keep moving.
Yeah.
I think that's the good thing about knowing that you're with the right person.
Right.
And because if I, with the things that we went through, and then because my mom said she's praying for me, her husband, and she also would say, let God himself tell you who your husband is. So that really stuck in my brain. I'm like, oh my gosh. So even when we were engaged and was planning a wedding, I was still like, Lord, is this the one? Am I supposed to marry him? And I went to church in Memphis, to my mom's church. And this guy that I didn't even know prophesied to me. He said that you're still asking God if this marriage is of God. And he said it is. He said, but it's also a ministry. And that's where we are now. We've been married 24 years, going on 25 years, and now the ministry is just coming together. But I was also going to say, when we first got married, he's depressed, he's grieving, I'm grieving, but I needed us to continue dating. I needed us to continue living. And he wanted me to be at home, and I wanted to be out, and I wanted to go and do things, but he wanted me to be at home. So I thought he didn't love me because he wouldn't go out with me. He thought I didn't love him because I wouldn't sit at home. And then finally, it came to him. He was the one who said it. He said, you can go out, you can do whatever you want to do, you can hang with your friend. I don't care what you do, but I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how we worked it. There are times when I might be with my girlfriends and he might be at home. We do go out together, but we've worked it out, and we realize it has nothing to do with the other person. That's just how God made me. And you know what? I was working on the doctorate when we got married. So I was taking these it was Christian counseling degree. And I was working on these inventories where questionnaires where I had to give it to 25 people. So I did it to Mike and me. And the first line on Mike's results said he was a couch potato. The first line for me, you're compulsive, you're sanguine, which is active, like to be out, extroverted person, off the scale. So you got somebody who likes to be out. Life is exciting. Let's go, to these rooftops. Let's go to these beautiful places. Remember what you say, Regis?
Yeah.
You experienced St. Regis with me years ago.
Love it.
I was so, but that's my kind of place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I like that and can do places like that all the time. Mike can do it every now and then,
Right.
but can be at home.
But one of the things that, and Nat talks about this in a book, and we learned how to argue.
Yeah,
and that helped a lot.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, Mike. I'm sorry, because I was on my way to work this morning, and one of the couples that went to a marriage conference with Winston and I said to me, the wife, this morning, she said, first of all, I want to thank you all for inviting us to be a part of that conference years ago, right?
Wow.
She said, one of the things that we learned in that conference, after they went with us, they went to an additional conference. She said, one of the things we learned was whenever we get into a disagreement, we need to come up with a word that one of us can say to let the other one know time out.
Wow,
she said, and we still use that. They use the word mango because he's from the islands. So whenever one of them says mango, it means time out. And she said lately they had been getting into some disagreements because they're doing some repairs in their home. And they said lately when they've had those disagreements and one of them used the word mango, they just bust out laughing.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
It kept them from going all the way.
Right.
And starting a real fight.
Right. That is funny.
Mm-hmm,
we need to adopt that one, mango.
Well, I just say blonde.
Right.
Mango.
Right. Yeah. But we do the come to the the table.
Basically, we called it. I forgot what we called it. It's in the book too. A check-in. Yeah. Yes. So when if we say we're gonna meet Wednesday for dinner, then we'll come and say, "Are you good? Is everything going okay? Is there anything you want to bring up?" And we allow both of us to say something, because what happened, how many times have you heard people divorce and the other person didn't even have a clue? Like I thought it was good. I didn't know anything it was. But when you check in, if something is going on, then that would be the time. I mean, of course, if something's really going on, you need to bring it up. But at least if you're checking in, just like you're doing your job,
Yep.
you know, you get your evaluation, you get, you know, everything's good, you can improve in this area. So
Mhm.
that's what we started doing, and it
That's
works.
great. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
You know, that is good across the board. I just had this conversation with my youngest daughter on the way home today, and I said a lot of times people don't want to hear what's uncomfortable.
right,
Right.
And it's so unfortunate because when you're willing to listen to what's uncomfortable, it helps you grow.
yeah,
If you're open enough to hear it from the other person's perspective, you may understand what they're saying and become sensitive and can make the adjustments when needed.
right.
You
That's
know what I
true.
mean?
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's very
You have to
important.
be okay with that.
Yes,
Yeah, it's very important because the check-in gave me as a man an opportunity to express some things and get some things off of my chest. And I
Right.
think a lot of times in a marriage, um, the men don't get an opportunity to speak up, to say what's on their mind. Don't look at me like
what? What?
You're right. And that
So,
is true.
Yeah,
right. So this give, we were kind of ahead of the game, but it helped me. And because right there we come to the table and it's hey, she says what she has to say, I say what I have to say, and we move on from there.
that's a non-threatening.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. And you know what else? It allows you to be vulnerable,
yeah,
and the other person to be sensitive to what you have to say.
right,
Don't
right,
dismiss it. Many times, if someone says, something makes me feel uncomfortable, or I would love for you to do ABC, or I feel a certain way, don't dismiss that.
right.
Like,
Right.
it's valid to that person. We just
Yeah,
have to figure out how to avoid that happening so that, we can keep moving forward positively.
right.
A lot of
That's
people,
true.
oh, that's not true. And
Right.
that
You can't get
person's mind,
defensive.
you got
Yeah,
to be open.
right. And sometimes when the person could say, if they say like, I felt this way when you did this, then the other person might could give some information as to what was going on for that person to act a certain way. But if you
Exactly.
don't even know that you did something, because if you could explain it, that could make that person feel better.
Exactly.
So, or if you could say that was a trigger for me, this reminded me of another situation, or a situation on the job, or
Exactly.
a past relationship. So if you could kind of explain it and talk about it,
Yeah.
that could make the situation better.
Yeah. And
But
you're
if you
right.
hold it in,
It's no good for anyone.
no,
Communication, I think, is one of the top issues
it
in
is.
relationships,
It
the lack
is.
thereof, or people not being sensitive. And I always, whenever me and Winston talk to couples, I would always say, if it's a tough topic, grab your spouse's hand and rub their hands or their
Yeah.
arm or their
Yeah.
leg so they know that it's coming from a good place, and
Right.
they'll be willing to receive it versus
Right. Right. That attack
you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
mode. Yeah.
Right.
So it's strategic. You got to be strategic.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
guard can come down and it'll be well
Right.
received.
Because you want it to feel safe, and you don't want to feel like the person is threatening you or not listening, or I mean, just so many things that can happen. So if you, like you said, do what you're saying and just say, I love you. I really care. You're my friend. Words that could
Mhm.
be words of affirmation
Yes.
to let the person know I'm with you. We're one. So this is affecting you. I might not understand it. So it has to affect me as well.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I used to
And so
love to
why
say, excuse me. I said I used to love to
Mhm.
say, I feel,
Yes.
I
I
feel,
statement.
Yeah.
oh, I love that because I was like, and because as soon as I say it, I just used to throw it back on. I
He
feel,
says that I talk like this. That's why I'm cracking up.
Right.
and then I let
And
it
he's
go.
right, Natalie. He's
Right. It's
right.
true.
Yeah, because I can hear you saying it just
Oh
like that.
yes. Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And the other thing is that we've learned, and as a therapist that I've learned with communicating, this is another nugget. What can I do at this point to make it better?
Right. Right.
Like if you go to a restaurant and the food is not right, or the manager comes and says, what can I do to save the day? And you want to feel heard. You want to feel like that the
You're
person
willing to
is
make
hearing me.
adjustments.
So what can I do at this point? Because you're upset. I might be upset. But at this point, what can I do?
Yes.
And it might just be apologize.
Right. It may
Or
be
don't do,
just a kiss on the
be
forehead.
aware. Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's, I am, like you said, I'm so sorry, sweetheart.
I am so sorry. I didn't realize what I was saying or that it was offensive. So you're giving that person the power by asking that. You're empowering that person.
Yes. And let's talk about, I mentioned earlier, many times we spend a lot of money and time preparing for the wedding day, right? And less time preparing for the marriage, because that's where the energy and the resources needs to be put and in an ongoing basis, right? Because you can never stop growing your relationship. You can never stop learning. You can never stop nurturing it, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Continue to take classes, read books, listen to podcasts or speeches or people that can speak into your life. And so why do you think that is, that people that in your circle, let's just talk about the ones in your circle, don't take the time to invest in the marriage as much as they invested in the wedding day?
That's a very good question. To be honest with you, most of my friends are not married. They're not married. I think what happened, a lot of my peers see themselves the way they did when they were younger. And there's probably several categories. One, I have some friends who are like, I don't want to do the work, period. It's too much work. I realize that I don't want to do it. Then I have some that still see themselves like they did when they were younger and prettier. And, and so then when they're meeting the guys, in this case, the guys, they may feel like, well, I'm in a different place, or this person had done the work physically that I've done. But I think and the other thing is people are not getting married the way they used to. But I think there are some, if they were to get married, they would want to do the premarital. Now that's a big thing now, premarital counseling. Because what that does, and when we do the counseling, and ours is premarital, we've done both premarital and people who are already married, we do a lot of assessments. And what happens when you do that and what happened with us, you'll see this is just who this person is, because there are people who think that person is abusive or mean, but you'll see that this is the personality. And so these assessments let you know what your strengths are, your weaknesses are. Like I was saying, I like to go. Michael is in between, could be home, likes being at home, or women use a lot of the words. I've been with Mike, and I think we might have talked about this when Mike and Winston were being interviewed. Men don't use a lot of words. I've been with Mike when he was with another guy friend. Mike, they might have said 10 words between them, but Michael would come back and tell me paragraphs. I'm like, how did you get that? He might say he and his wife are going through, they are not doing well. I don't know if they got a man. I'm like, how did you get that? I was right there with you guys. I didn't hear all those words. He said, we just get it. We just understand. So we're using all our words, and then it could be intimidating. Michael's even saying, it's too many words. You're coming at me, and I don't have time to think, and I'm trying to process, and and I'm like, oh my gosh. So you can see them when they shut down. So these assessments teach us how to communicate, even with birth order. Birth order it's important to know. We're both older, we're the older siblings. So if you're the older sibling and you marry a younger sibling, so that can affect the relationship. I have a friend whose daughter was an only child. Her husband was not an only child, but was raised by grandparents. This is the guy. They call the guy precious, the grandparents. So they're battling. They want the same stuff, they're looking for, so they're really both like only children.
So so what you're saying is, because we could be so different and we could come from so many different backgrounds and worlds, that the assessments that you take the time to do prior to saying I do will help you understand who you
are and who you're marrying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to figure out, can I handle this, or do I want to handle this?
And it'll help you understand the person. It'll help you understand yourself. Because it takes a while for us to get to know who we are. First of all, we evolve and we change, especially women, I think. So it takes us a while to evolve. But a lot of times, if there's conflict, I try to get to know the person's background to see what this could be part of it, because this person was raised, have you been around people and they say, I love you every second, and they were raised in those homes and everybody's going around saying, I love you. Where the other people might have the love in the home, but they ain't said, I love you until something's going down. So you have to realize that we're just different.
Yeah. And, I think one of the things too, people don't take the time to get to know the family. Like they die.
Yes, we talked about that today. Yes, like, you married a family.
Yeah, you can't get the Jeffro without the Clampets.
Right. So you married the whole family.
You got to marry the whole family.
And you may not want
ugly and different.
You might think you don't have to, but you do.
But here's something that I saw also. When you bring two people together, especially if that's their first marriage and you're talking about the wedding, both parties are selfish going into it. And for men, if you've been single all that time and now you have to make an adjustment. I was very selfish, and she kept pointing it out, but I didn't pay any attention in the beginning. But then I realized how selfish I really was, and I had to change. So if you really want to work on that marriage, is both parties come in being very selfish. And I know men we can be very selfish also. So we have to work on that. Both parties, the man and the woman, has to work on that.
But the difference is, though, women are born to want to be in a relationship. Most women, that's our identity. It's how many children I have. I'm married. I have grandchildren. Whatever the case may be, we come into the world. Now, not everybody, and it's changing some. But as far as the difference between men and women, men are into the job, their careers and sports. We're into relationships. So we may give a little, unless we are just pitifully spoiled, but we may give a little bit more because we want the relationship to work and we want to be in the relationship. Whereas guys, they feel like they're in prison, the locks are changed. So they're already. And, I think like he said, the older you get, it could be harder because you've really been by yourself a long time and you're doing it your way. And now you got to come back and do it our way, which could be difficult.
Yeah, it can be. I know for us, when the first marriage for me, we did do a little marriage counseling because we were very young, but we were too young to really understand what we were getting ourselves into. The second marriage for me was very substantive. We did premarital counseling with two ministers because we knew that we were blending the family, and that was the most challenging part because my kids were open to their mom marrying, but Winston's youngest son did not want his dad to move on. So we knew that those challenges in itself could make or break the relationship. So we were willing to invest with our pastor and my brother David's pastor in Baton Rouge. So we were serious about
getting
what was necessary before we said I do. And the other thing that we talked about was divorce was not going to be on the table. So that wasn't going to be an option up front. So we took that off the table. So which meant you're going to have to work through
Right. Very
the
hard.
challenges that come. And there were many, but we were in it to win it till death do us part. And so we went into it. And I can honestly say, maybe with a different level of maturity, a different level of understanding. So we didn't put a whole bunch of money into the wedding, but we invested into the premarital stuff and the substance.
Right. That's
was
good.
marriage together. So we were very modest when it came to the wedding. And we did interact with our families and as much of his family as he wanted to. So
that's good.
Yeah, I think that it's important. Invest in
the
relationship.
Yeah, Mike and I had pastoral and secular counseling, and we almost broke up.
Really?
Yes, with my pastor. My pastor was counseling us, and remember we were telling you that Mike's mom had mental challenges, and the plan was she would live with us, and so my pastor asked Mike if he trusted me with his mom, and he said no. I'm like, well, what are we doing? Why did you say that?
Young.
Look,
because I already know I'll be the one taking care of her. You
now,
already know.
Mike seems like he was, you know, like you said, he was the man of the house. My mom is my responsibility. Nobody can really take care of her but me. He probably didn't understand that you was in it to win it with him, like he was at that time, right?
Right.
Very protective of her because he knew the mental part. He knew the daddy was gone and he had assumed that role as so he was probably like, nobody can do it like me.
Yeah, he said nope. I was like, whoa.
Right.
We left. I mean, we left angry.
I can imagine how you felt. I can imagine how you felt.
Yeah, I was like, well, what are we doing? Because I already knew I was going to be the one to take care of her. So if something happened, I said, he already knows that. Mm-hmm. And so then the other therapist said, because I said, if something happens, I know. And I said, I don't have the sick and shut in ministry. And I don't. That's not a gift that I have. My sister-in-law and I joke about it, that we don't have a sick and shut in ministry.
And that's good to know that.
It is. And I was trying to be, I quit as a candy striper.
I love being a candy striper.
Me. I was 12 again. I said, come get me. This is not working. So I told the therapist, I said, I already know if something happens to his mom, I'm going to be the one taking care of her. And the therapist asked Mike, do you hear what she's saying? And Michael said he did, but he really didn't. But yes. Do you hear what she's saying? She's trying to let you know that you're going to have to step up. Right. It would have been me. I already know.
No.
Yeah. And you know, the thing about it is to thine own self be true. You know, if she was going to move in with you guys, you had to talk about the tough conversations. Like, I'm not going to live with us. But what can we do to provide ABC that's necessary?
Right.
Yeah.
And then my thing, and I could kind of see it play out. I said, once we really got together, I said, now, but she died before we got married. But I said, what would have happened? At the time I was living in Kennesaw. They were living on the south side. His mother was not going to move to Kennesaw. Now that I can really see it. So Mike would have been with his mom, taking care of his mom. And it would have been like we were dating.
Wow.
We would have been meeting at Cumberland.
No, I disagree.
What?
I disagree on that.
You do?
Because one of the things that I have prepped my mom and I had talked to her and I let her know that when I was getting ready to marry you, I said, Mom, now you got to understand. I said, I'm about to be married. And I said, Nataline will be number one and you will be number two. And I said, you have to understand that this is my wife. She comes first. I said, you've done a great job in raising me and doing everything, but she's number one now.
Wow. Now that's to be commended. You know, because that's the way, that's the order.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
have to be able to convey that order, because so many people marry and the wife and the mother-in-law are in competition.
Yeah.
And there's no competition once you say I do,
Right.
because if
Right.
you believe the word is clearly stated, and even if you don't believe the word is clearly stated,
Right. It is.
that your wife comes first, and then your children, and then your parents, because things shift and change. Those are things that you must talk about.
Yeah,
Oh,
you have to.
Yeah, I mean, before she passed, she knew, and I let it be known. I let it be
Yeah.
known. She knew her son, and I would tell her, I said, no, 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 we're not going to do that today. I said,
And let me
understand.
tell you
That's
what
it.
I remember about you guys. When you did that interview, you talked about how Natalie, one of the things that you knew, why she was the perfect person for you, was that your mother, she allowed your mother to sit in the front seat.
Yeah.
And you knew that she was the one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
And out of respect is the reason why she did it. And that's what she said.
Right.
I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love the fact that you were able to tell your mom, Mom, I'm going to be marrying this lady and she's going to come first in my life. And so it doesn't mean that I don't love you,
Right.
but I need to make sure you know how we're going to flow.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I had a great relationship with her. So, and we had a lot of fun together, even through the struggles. So
Mhm,
she knew her son, and
mhm,
she knew I wasn't
mhm.
playing that when it come to that.
Right. And we have to have these conversations, because that's the same with children
Yeah.
and parents.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean we don't love you. We just have to do things in order.
Right. You
Right.
got to have that
You got to
order,
have that order. That's
because
so
Gotta
true.
have
it's
that order.
chaotic if you don't.
That's so true.
Yes. And so it's so important, as you all mentioned, to do the sessions, the premarital sessions,
Oh my gosh.
to
Yeah.
do the assessments, to figure out who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't even know if they do assessments now that let you know who you are as a couple. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I'm just hoping that someone that's listening tonight will really understand the importance of investing in the marriage. So
Right.
as we are, coming to a close, I want you guys to share how they can purchase the books, kind of share a little bit about that, and before we do nuggets to give advice to someone that may be struggling in their marriage.
Okay. After the wedding, then comes the marriage. Is on Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
so they can purchase it through that platform. Woman Up, I have copies. I need to order more, to be honest with you. But what we found, though, since we have both books, single people like the Woman Up book, and the married people or people who are getting married like the. And I didn't realize that was going to happen. I thought everybody would be interested in After the Wedding, then comes the marriage. For some, I don't know why, but I think because we do have two books. But so those are the books. If they want to go to Amazon, just look it up. And of course, it would be mailed to their house. It's Dr. Nataline Woods. After the Wedding, then comes the marriage, and you'll see the book cover. And then the Woman Up book, they would have to get through us. And we have the
Email number.
I think it's going down there, but the email is natawoods@yahoo.com, Nata Woods with an S at yahoo.com. That's the email address. The phone number, you can call 678-322-7433. So you can email us, or you can call the contact number, or you can message me through Facebook. Nataline Matthews Woods is on the Facebook page, or Michael Woods.
Right. And I just want to give a plug for those couples out there that are looking for counseling. Here we are. You can see us right here face to face. This is Dr. Nata Woods and Michael Woods. and we do it also virtually.
Yeah.
So
And people like that
people like
since
that,
COVID.
definitely. So give us a call, let us know. We'd be more than happy to assist and give you some nuggets.
Right. And the good thing about Zoom, you don't have to be in Atlanta. We do coach or counsel people that are in Indiana,
Yeah,
Chicago, I mean, just wherever.
North
And
Carolina, Louisiana.
and
I love
and what
that.
happened? Go ahead. What did you say?
I said, I love that.
Yes. And what happened? We were so transparent in the book about our relationship and how we were able to exist as a couple and to do well. Then we realized in order to be with other couples, we needed the man, which is Mike. We needed a guy because if it's two women, the guy is going to see it as the woman is teaming up. But it's always good to have a male perspective. So Michael, as he's giving you his credentials, he's a mentor, he's a coach, he's in leadership. So all of those things you bring to the table with with coaching and counseling and mentoring. And so that's how we are able to come together. And we're very transparent about our relationship
I
and
love
how
that.
we will work through
Right.
things. Because we've had a challenging time. The first few years, most people would have been divorced because we went without the job situation. We went, the mom passed. And so then he lost his job. Then he had to get another job. Then he got sick because he was grieving. So we went through a lot that most people go through in a lifetime.
Well, I'm
But
so glad.
because,
Yeah.
yes,
I'm so glad the foundation was your relationship with Christ
yes,
and the
definitely.
commitment that you made to each other. You honored
Yes,
your commitment because at the end of the day, you know, we are in this to win it, right?
right. Absolutely.
You stuck to your commitment because
Right.
many times people stand before the altar and say, I do, and they're
They
not,
don't.
yeah,
Right.
they don't. I
No,
told a
no.
family member not long ago, I said, don't you say I do to another person because you know that you're not able to.
Oh, wow.
Don't do it.
Oh my gosh.
So to dine on self, we have to be true.
That's true.
And
That's
sometimes,
true.
people like, you're not, that's not for you. So don't even step into that zone.
And know that that person that God really gave you that person. And once if you're not sure and you marry anyway, that's fine. But know who you have and work through it.
Absolutely.
But for me, if I didn't know that Mike was the person that God chose for me, and once we got in and we saw, oh my God, this was perfect. You really are the person for me. Then when it got hard, I knew I couldn't leave. Where am I going? God did a great thing. So what am I mean, what? So you
Absolutely.
just work through it, you get the help, you talk through it, you do the check-ins and just pray and just whatever assessments or whatever you need to do, just get the help.
Yes.
Get the
Continue
help.
to become one. Continue
Right.
to become one. Nurture that relationship. And as a widow, coming from a widow perspective, and I have a widow and a widower's tribe, we really understand from a different perspective how valuable that relationship is, right?
Right.
When that person is gone. Yeah, you value it when they're living, but when they are absent, you really understand it. So you
Yeah.
have to make sure you have 2 feet in, 2 hands in. You're doing everything that you possibly can to help nurture that relationship so you can grow together and help each other live a purposeful life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And like
Absolutely.
one of our guests said, it's a win-win mindset. So if you
Yes, it
understand,
is.
I'm a servant to you, you're a servant to me in a certain perspective, right?
Right.
We are here to serve each other's needs,
Right.
whatever those are, because we said I do to each other. So it's not, we can't be one-sided.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you guys are here.
Thank
Is
you.
there any advice that you can share right now? Mike, I want you to speak to the men
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
think it's important. We are very vocal. Women are. And
Right.
we don't hear men a lot. So I would love for you to share a nugget with the men. Speak to their heart.
Well, one of the things, a lot of things that help me. One of the things you have to do is women, they love to talk.
He's still on there talking.
Yeah. So we have to learn how to
Accept
just, accept it and be quiet. And just be quiet and pick and choose your battles with your wife or your best friend.
that.
And that's how I look at it. This is my best friend also, and she's my wife. My best friend is my wife. So I pick and choose my battles.
What about grandpa?
Yeah, well, I have my grandfather. My grandmother's still living. She's 102. But
What a
I was
blessing.
on the I was on the porch. Now that's old. I'm on the porch with my grandfather, and he's talking smack. I mean, he was a big smack talker. He's talking, and I'm laughing. So he tells me, he says, "Boy, your problem is you talk too much." I said, "Uh-oh." So he's going on at that point. My grandmother comes out on the porch and she goes off on my grandfather, just going in on him. She finished and she goes back inside. He turns around and looks at me and does this.
Changed our lives.
And that
changed our marriage.
I realized that you pick and choose. I call it for myself. It's what works for me. And that's another thing too. Don't try to be like everybody else's marriage. You got to find out what works for you and your marriage.
Organic.
This works, right? This works for us. Now we can share things, but you got to figure out what's going to work for you and your wife.
Yeah.
I love that.
And make it work. And make it work. I use the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, I don't say anything. It's a wrap. She just you got it. But I do have that 20%.
Right.
And when I have that 20%, she hears me. She hears me.
I love it. I love it. When E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen.
Yeah, that's true.
Speak. Yes.
Right.
So I just want to say thank you so much. If there is anything, I've shared your number. I want to share your website again so that people can plug in to you all, because I think it's so important, and marriage is so near and dear to my heart. And so God said it's a good thing, and I would never be one to say that it isn't, because you have so high of a divorce rate, particularly amongst African Americans. We want to change that around, and that was one of the things that was a mission of mine and a mission of Winston, is how can we have a positive impact on couples, because God said it's good. We just have to be very obedient about who we hook up with.
Yeah, that's true.
The selection process.
Yeah.
Well, I challenge all the listeners to go on Amazon, purchase the book, and then get back with us and let us know what you think.
Yes. So thank you all so much.
Thank you for having us. This was fun.
Yes. So I'm so glad that you were available, and we got to catch up a little bit, and the tables were turned. Mike and Winston, and now it's the three of us.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So
wonderful.
Thank you all so much. And thank you all to every guest. The comments were great. We appreciate those comments. We hope that you will tune in with us, not next Thursday, but the following Thursday, or stay tuned for the dates in September. And so thank you all again so much, Team Woods.
Thank you.
We truly appreciate you, and pray God's continued blessings upon your union.
Thank you.
You all blessed us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. You guys have a wonderful evening.
You too. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Y'all hold tight.